And I double checked, he has an invitation, so.
All right, at 7 o'clock, I will call to order the Bucksport Town Council meeting for August 13th. Roll call, Jacob.
Mark Eastman.
Here.
Morrison.
Here.
Paul Bissonnette.
Here.
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 Kathy Adams.
Here.
Ed Rankin. Not here yet, I don't believe.
Item 3 is presentation of any town council recognitions. I don't believe we have anything. Item 4 is consider minutes of previous meetings. We have town council minutes from 7/23/2020.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. A motion and a second. Jacob.
Mark Eastman.
Approve.
Jim Morrison.
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette.
Approve. Approve.
Dan Ormsby.
Approve.
Approve.
Item 5 is receive and review correspondence. First one is June 27th, 2020, Sheriff Assistant Penobscot Narrows Bridge. And the second is Down East Transportation Ridership for May and June of 2020. Anything from the council on either one of those? Seeing nothing. Item 6 is ordinance first reading. And we have an ordinance to amend the town charter, section 9.04, number 2, to change the referendum voting requirement from 250 to 300,000. Margaret, has your name on this?
Yeah, I had brought it forward to Sue because, based on the application we did with the state and we had to leave $25,000 on the table, if we're going to apply again this year, it would seem to make sense to bring that limit up so we don't leave that $25,000 on the table this year. Sue, do you have anything to add?
The thing he's referring to is the wall grant the retaining wall grant that was for $550,000, and the town was only able to accept a portion of that. It was a match. They would have put in $275 if we could do the same, and we had to reduce it to $249 to stay under the $250 borrowing. In the case of that project, it's not a luxury. The walls are in bad shape and have to be redone, and the ability to use state funding for a significant portion of it is important. So that's it. Mark had mentioned it. In order for it to be to happen, it would need to be approved by the council and then be on the ballot in November, because the voters would have to decide whether or not this change should happen. So that's why it's here for first reading, because it would have to have a second reading and a public hearing on the 20th in order to be done in time by September 1 in order to get it on the ballot.
I have a question. So where that happened with the wall, has that happened a lot before in the past where we've run into that situation?
Not to my knowledge. Well, not since I've been here, but we haven't gotten a 50-50 match for $550,000 before. Generally grant funding is lower than that.
Any other comments? At our meeting on the 27th, Sue, we will have a public hearing.
I'm sorry, 20th. The 20th. right? Oh, you're right, the 27th. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've been calling it the 20th all day, so now I'm out of sync here, but that's all right.
It's all right. Yeah, I think there'll be some discussion on this. So I think if we don't have anything further right now, but we set it up for a public hearing and second reading on the 27th, please. Is that okay with everybody? Item 7 is discussion items. First is pool update.
The pool is open and has been for some time now. It came out really well. The Y reports that it's getting good usage. We haven't hit the 50 people mark where there have to be numbers and timing and all that, but it's operating well. Especially in all this heat, I'm so happy that it was able to be opened when it was, so the kids of the community and people of the community have had the opportunity to use it. But the final total is approximately $130,000, and that includes everything. So that's $870,000 less than what it could have been. So, and it's done in such a way that you should get a significant amount of life out of this rehab. So
I realize we just got open, Sue, but what's the closing date?
Well, generally speaking, it's the end of August, but we're planning on keeping it open into September this year, especially if the weather stays, which it's estimated to. And with the complexities of school openings, I think that there will be children who have time to still have recreational opportunities.
That's what I was wondering, if we, based on what the schools do, if there's a chance to keep it open longer. So
yeah, the plan was, our original hope was to have it open by the middle of July when we went through this whole thing, and it opened 2 weeks later than that. But in discussions with the Y on this, it was that it would be open all of August and into September. Weather and school schedules are kind of going to drive it, but even if it's open for weekends or that kind of stuff, if we can keep this recreational opportunity going while the weather is warm.
okay. Anything for anybody on the pool? Next item is 27 Main Street options. I don't know if this is you or Rich.
It's Rich.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you've all had a chance to look at the proposal that was sent over from Two Rivers Realty. Does anyone have any questions about the proposal for me? Sue, is Kathy on this meeting?
No, I can invite her. She said that, hold on. Fix that.
While we're waiting, Rich, do you have a recommendation? I know you were looking at something else prior to that.
The Community and Economic Development Committee had taken up the matter where it had been the same thing had been going on for 6 years, where before COVID happened, we were going to take a vote at our next meeting on what we were going to take up the subject on what the committee's recommendation would be to the council. Where we did not have that meeting, and all I had was previous notes to go on it and my experience with it. The new proposal seems to be a little more murky than even what we had previously. If you look at the proposal towards the end, if Two Rivers were to bring forward the developer, the person to purchase the land, they would get $5,000 commission, no matter what we sold the land for. Now, if the town brings it forward, Two Rivers would get $3,000. But what's still unclear to me is that there are other realtors out in the world. So, who's to say if George McLeod or Elaine Pelletier or someone like that were to bring a client to Two Rivers, what happens at that point now?
I'll ask our resident real estate agent, Mark. Isn't there normally a percentage on that instead of a flat, or is it flat rate? Or
Well, when this came up, there's another option. And when this came up, there's another option where the town could put it on the MLS, and Rich could be the point of contact, and you could have a flat fee. That was when that concept came up. Typically, it is a commission. It is a set commission. But what's different here is, I mean, if somebody brought us a project we want to do that we think is a great project, and they only want to pay $20,000, but it's $1 million project, how are those two things going to translate? Because if it's a 6% commission, then it's not going to be much. But it's a little murky, as Rich said. It is.
because I mean that's what the flat fee part of it. I mean, part of it is, and we've done it in the past. We've almost given stuff away, just to try to get some economic development. And if that's the case, are we still on the hook? And
well, I mean, the reason the flat fee came up, Peter, was because if Rich was the one doing it, he could offer a commission if somebody brought some broker brought somebody forward. That's where the flat fee came from. But if we're going to stay on the same path, it probably makes sense to do a set commission, for Rich to negotiate a commission with Two Rivers. What would you like to do, Rich?
I think in the interest of time, in the interest of maybe shaking things up a little bit, and again, as I said last week, this is not anything against any business in the town. We've done the same thing. Complacency gets to be devastating. We've moved them out. We've lowered the price. I can't even tell you the last time Two Rivers Realty even brought someone to us. I brought someone to the table. In my busyness, forgot to call Two Rivers, was talked to that I can't do that. I have to get them and make sure that they're involved. We've got that blind bid that came in the mail that we did not solicit, that someone offered us X amount of dollars for it. We did our research. It wasn't something we wanted to get involved in. It was published in the paper. And Two Rivers didn't get notified, so they were kind of a little upset at that point as well. That they would not be notified what's going on. So I sent them a letter. I said, here, this was an unsolicited offer. So it's a little extra work, and I'm not afraid to work hard. It's a little extra work. But if a developer comes up from Portland, and I'm required to call Two Rivers Realty, and they can't be there, and this developer's only up for the day, which they sometimes just, Old Oceans just came knocking on the door and they wanted to talk that day. I mean, that happens in my line of work. So, like I said, Two Rivers have been good to work with. With this property right here, the way we're selling it, I would find it easier if we did it the same way we did the industrial park.
I was going to say, we don't have any realtors involved in our industrial park, correct?
No, we don't.
Anybody else on the council have anything to add?
I'd just like to add, I'd kind of like to see Rich have a little bit more freedom and control of this, where he's the one dealing with it day in, day out.
I agree. I agree with what Ed said.
And just to back up what everybody else is saying, I mean, Rich could still put it on the MLS and make it available to brokers, and he could offer a set commission. It would be a flat fee if somebody brought somebody forward, so any local broker could still bring a buyer forward.
And you're amicable to doing that, Rich?
I am.
Anybody else from the council have anything?
Would you like that resolved for your next meeting?
I will request that as a resolve as the next meeting, please. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Fishing dock project. I assume that's also you?
Hello again. Yes. So we reached out to our engineer. It is the same person that did the town pier. and I'm looking to be able to get this project started. So I'd like the opportunity to get started with the engineer. The cost, because what we're looking at doing, as you're aware, the current situation is the fishing pier heads out. It's got a gangway that leads down, and then we have 4 floats. Everything needs to be replaced. We just replaced the wires down there that hold it in place. It's a little different setup than the marina. It doesn't work very well. You know what happened a few years back. And from the marina's standpoint, we don't have a camera that can watch what's happening at the fishing pier. So if something were to happen, unless one of us is down there, it's unbeknownst to us. Not that if someone sits in front of the computer and would watch the camera all day, but at least it would give us another option. So what the safety committee's recommendation was, and it was a unanimous decision, was to extend the pier out, add a couple of dolphins, and have it so that it was T-shaped. It could be there year-round. There would be no more floats in the water, and that would be one less flight that we'd have to worry about. Because in its current condition, we would have to replace the entire pier. We'd have to replace all 4 floats. This year, we had to have a diver to get it in. Last year, it took us longer to get it in. We couldn't. We had 3 different boats trying to move those anchors. This year, we were lucky. Our diver came back from Cuba and was able to help us get it in place a little bit earlier this year, but it's still open late.
Any comments? So, Rich, are we asking for an RFI or an RFP? I mean, obviously, this sounds like it needs to be engineered in some way, correct?
It does need to be engineered. For engineers and professionals of that nature, we don't need to put that out to bid. We can utilize any engineer, and we use the same person who's engineered all of our town docks. When we did that originally, it was the same company. He did the town pier again, and we'd like to use him again for the fishing pier. We're thinking the entire project would cost somewhere about $100,000, but I think we can, just because of the inflated cost of lumber at this point right now, and then the fact we'd have to add a couple dolphins.
So, are we going to have a set of plans put out for a bid? So we're going to engineer this ourselves and then put the bid out as a plan?
Yes, exactly. And we did that with the town pier project, and that came in at about $70,000.
And you figure okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just, you're thinking total cost of the whole project, including the engineering, will be somewhere north or south of 100?
Yes, yeah, and again, a lot of that's because of the cost of pressure-treated lumber right now. I mean, we were getting 2x4x8 for about $4 and change when we were starting to build the docks. When I had to go get one not too long ago, it was almost $10 for that same piece of lumber. So the cost of lumber is just about doubled. But that here is in worse shape than when we took down that town dock.
So do we need to resolve on that, Sue, or is that just okay to go forward? Or
Be okay to go forward with the engineering. This isn't approving spending $100,000. This is okaying the engineering of this project and then the putting it out to bid. It's not until you start awarding bids that you're obligated for the big amounts of money. But the process of getting it engineered and out to bid is what the purpose of this item is. And that we don't use resolves to go out to bid. We use resolves to award the results of bids. So
everybody okay with going forward with this, at least the initial part of that?
Yes.
Anybody have any more questions or anything for Rich on this? Do we expect this, Rich, will be something that could be ready by next summer?
When we did the town pier, we started the work in late October. It was done in November, and I'm running for the same scenario.
Okay. So not seeing, again, can I get a thumbs up from most folks if we're good with this? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 5 Mount Olive Heights. I believe this one's you, Sue?
It is. The reason this is on here is 5 Mount Olive Heights. It's across from the Jewett School. It's on the corner. You can barely see it because it's surrounded by weeds and overgrowth and etc. Some windows are out of the building. We are receiving significant complaints about the condition of the property, rats being seen there, etc. The property is vacant. The owner lives here in Bucksport in one of the apartment complexes. The property is in tax foreclosure for 2018 tax lien that expired. The property owner continues to make an occasional payment, but there was also a mortgage on the property through Seaboard, but they did not. They chose not to pay the taxes and keep it from going into foreclosure. It's a pretty complicated property that way, but it's on there for because I'm looking for permission from the council to work with the property owner to see if I can assist her or the town assist her in finding a way to sell this property so that the town gets its taxes, Seaboard gets its money, and there would be some for her as well. If the town sells it, takes it and sells it for unpaid taxes, we can't just give the money back because that's not part of the way we do it. But since she is making an effort, but it will never, the property is not salvageable. It's in very poor condition. As I said, our code officer is getting a lot of complaints on it. I'm just looking for feedback. I want to work with this property owner to help her get by this. In talking with her bank and stuff, they're not quite sure why she hasn't done this, but it's becoming a public nuisance now, and I'd like to try this before the town took any actions that it's legally allowed to take in terms of public sale of that property. I'd like to find a better way to do this than just
Anybody from the council have anything to say? Paul?
Yeah, Sue, what sort of time frame are you looking for on that?
I'm looking for that to happen, to contact her and attempt to get that in motion within the next month. And I don't believe that there would be a problem selling that lot, even if it had a building on it to take down, for more than enough to satisfy all the obligations that are currently outstanding on that property. But it's not, I'm not suggesting I'm going to spend a year on this. I'm suggesting that we're saying there's no.
I was thinking October 15th, Sue, we ought to have some type of resolution to this.
Yep.
When we talked earlier about it, and when I thought about it, if we could, that would be a couple months in order to you to be able to talk to the owner and hopefully work out a resolution. But after that, we've done this a couple times and we've been burnt a couple times. So I want to make sure that we can do our due diligence, but I also want to make sure that we're covering ourselves because it is becoming a nuisance thing.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm of the opinion that October 15th is a very gracious amount of time in order to resolve this. That property is becoming more than a nuisance. And so, yeah, a resolution by October 15th, I think, is more than gracious on the part of the town. But I'm okay with it as well.
Sue, does that give you enough time? What you think you would need to do this? Yeah.
The biggest hurdle to this will be if the property owner is willing to take some sort of action with the property. From the state of the taxes and the state of the property, it's clear that there's not sufficient resources to do it otherwise. And as I said, I talked to the bank and they're not sure why that's not happened either. I'm going to try to see if the property owner is willing to take some action to it not only pay the taxes, but clear up her other obligations that are on that property, which I would think would make her life easier if she wasn't having to pay on a very limited income a mortgage for a place that she can't live in because it's in such terrible condition. So I'll know before October 15th whether this is going to be a process or an event.
I'm good with that too then. The October 15th date sounds good to me.
Anybody, all the council's okay with that? And anything else? Okay, thank you. The next item is cruise ship discussion. American Cruise Lines has withdrawn its request for the 2020 season for any operations in Maine. I know everybody has received all the correspondence that's come in through the town, either through Sue or through the website. Sue sent out a letter from American Cruise Lines. Any other discussion, Sue, you want to have on this?
Well, a few interesting things have emerged during this discussion, in that there's been some criticism leveled at the town for discussing this item because of COVID and other, and I guess that I would just like the opportunity to say that this, like any other subject that is introduced to the town, deserves to be discussed and due diligence done to the request, and that I don't think it would be appropriate if me or the council was determining ahead of time what subjects we would talk about and what ones we wouldn't. This may be uncomfortable at times to talk about controversial items, but I think this council has done a good job of doing that in a respectful way to each other and to the public, and I just want the public to understand that if we pre-decide what we can talk about, then a whole element to the public process is missing, and I don't think that would be in the best interest of Bucksport for us to decide on behalf of everybody else what's worth talking about. If items come to this council, I expect that they'll have a hearing. That's how it's done it, and I would hope that we would continue to do that. And I just wanted an opportunity to say that because, as I said, some of the criticism related to the fact that you even talked about it. And talking about something isn't advocacy, it's a discussion. So I would hope that we continue to talk about hard things, even though not everybody thinks you should talk about them, because it's, in my mind, our responsibility to talk about what comes before us and include all the information that's been presented. When anyone contacted me on this subject, I sent them everything I had. I sent them American Cruise Lines plan. I sent them every email I had received, for and against. I sent all of it to everyone. And there were those who said, well, you're advocating for this because you included American Cruise Lines stuff. And I said, I'm not. You asked for information. That's all the information we have. And when you ask for all the information, I'm not just going to send what agrees with your point of view. I'm going to send everything that the council is looking at. So, as I said, in some ways that's been a little frustrating, but at the end of the day, we'll be having a conversation again in 2021 about in this topic. They've indicated a desire to come in next season, and so we'll have another discussion. And I just want people to understand that it's really the council's job to talk about these things without deciding ahead of time that it isn't, that we don't, if we don't think it's all right, we're just not going to talk about it. Anyway, much longer than I should have talked, but that I think is a really important point about that sometimes get lost, especially in controversial issues, that sometimes process is all we have, and we have to stay true to our process, which is due diligence on any item that comes to this council. So,
Thank you. Anybody from the council have anything to add?
Just something real quick, Peter. I mean, basically, I'll second what Sue said. It's not exactly how things work in these meetings, but I mean, she's absolutely right, and I'll even go so far as to say that if she felt the opposite, it would probably behoove this council to decide whether or not, if she just made a decision of her own volition that this wasn't something to bring forth to the council to discuss. We all know she wouldn't do that, but she wouldn't be fit for the job if she were making decisions like that. And we wouldn't be fit for this role if that's how we were going to approach these type of things. This has been a sensitive topic. I've tried to listen to as many people as possible, and I can sit here right now and tell you I do not know, and this is not how I normally operate, but I do not know what the town manager's position on the cruise ships are. Because I didn't want to know. I specifically did not ask her that question because I wanted to talk to other people and I wanted to hear different viewpoints. I knew what my opinion was, and I was presented with some interesting viewpoints, and it forced me to think about how I felt about it. But she's 100% right. There's a council for a reason, and we to discuss these things, and it's not always going to be fun, but. And this is one of those issues that's generated a lot of talk and opinion, but our town manager is 100% right.
Thank you. Anybody else? So we will hear from American Cruise Lines in 2021. So we'll go forward from there. Thank you. And I do want to thank everybody that did submit stuff. I mean, that is how the process is supposed to work. I certainly don't want to operate this council in a vacuum, and we do value everybody's opinion, and I think that was stated in all the correspondence back. So anytime that you have questions or concerns or comments, please don't hesitate to keep doing what you did on this, because that does inform our decisions and helps us make sure that we are looking at things from all sides. So again, thank you very much. All right, and did you have anything, Sue, from outside on that, other than what we've already seen? There's no emails or anything?
No, there's no, we have no emails, and the phone hasn't rung.
Okay. All right, item 8 is agenda items. First is to approve Resolve 2021-08 to approve the final pay requisition for the sewer treatment plant project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything further from the council on this? Did I see that says final, Sue?
Final. The end. Cross off the list. Check that box. It is
All right.
the solar array up running, paid for. This last invoice is the last engineering ones on that, and the pumps that were part of the extra pumps we bought were part of that remaining contingency in case there was a failure of a pump in the future. So no, this is the last it can convert on our balance sheet from construction in progress to finalized assets, which I've been chasing this for 5 years. I'm very excited that this is the last one.
Absolutely. Jacob?
Eastman,
Approve.
Morrison. Okay, all Bissonnette,
Approve.
You froze up, Jacob. Was that me? Approve.
Lonsky,
Approve.
Downs,
Approve.
Approve.
Ed, welcome. I didn't even notice you came in. I hope you were here for most of the discussion stuff.
Yeah, I came in at 7:04.
All right. Thank you. Did you get that, Jacob? Ed showed up at 7:04.
thank you.
Thank you. Next item is to approve Resolve 2021-09 to approve the purchase of a new police cruiser. I know we had some information from the police, from the director. Sue, do you have anything further to add?
This is for the purchase of the police cruiser. Deputy Chief Winchester's here. If anyone has any questions on that, you have all the information in the packet. The difference was between whether it would be the basic Interceptor or the one that came with all the pre-wired stuff for all the lighting that's necessary to go into that that cruiser. And so the recommendation is for the one that's already set up for all of the police lighting that has to go in it, rather than getting one and then having to have all that work done to do all that installation. And there's a separate resolve on here regarding the 2013 Ford Explorer, the vendor that is the recommended recipient of this bid is only willing to have offered a $5,000 trade-in, which is under the value of that, and so that is not included as part of this. And the recommendation is further on in the agenda to do something different with that. But the purchase of this cruiser is that's it. And as I said, Deputy Chief Winchester is here. David, do you have?
I'm just here to answer any questions if anybody has any on what the new cruiser would include. Maybe in the package that you guys already received.
Anybody have any questions?
David, this is kind of just like a revolving thing, correct? Just so we're not having real high mileage maintenance vehicles.
That's correct. The lead cruiser that's going to be cycled out is about ready to hit 86,000 right now. So if we were to hold on to it another year, we're pushing a lot of miles, which is going to add up on our payers. So we're looking to cycle it out.
Okay, thank you.
That cruiser will go with Sergeant Moody.
Any other questions? Hey, David, I noticed that one of the cruisers was a hybrid, and this one that we're looking at is not. Is that correct?
Correct. The hybrid was a bid from Bangor Donnellys.
Has there been any luck with police cruisers and hybrids, and is there any value in those?
I am not aware of any agencies in our area that has a hybrid. My only concern would be what we would need to purchase to accommodate a hybrid in our garage, set up for that. I know that the hybrid bid that was sent our way was the highest of the group.
Okay. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Anything further from the council? Jacob? I'll go around the table for you. Jim Morrison?
Approve.
Ed Rankin?
Approve.
Kathy Downs?
Approve.
Mark Eastman?
Approve.
I almost said Brooke Miller because that's the name I'm looking at. Paul Bissonnette?
Approve.
Dan Orsby?
Approve.
And Pete Stewart approves. Thank you. Next item is to approve Resolve 2021-10 to approve the MMA Legislative Police Committee ballot for July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2022.
Jacob's trying to get your attention.
Date.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Jake.
Sue, if you would mind picking up part one, and before you guys move forward, the police, the resident on part one, Sue, that has a question that she would like brought up to the council, more along the line of defining what the
This is Sue.
light duty truck is,
Hi.
the use of the
Yes. Yeah, that's a separate resolve. The old one going to the fire department is a separate resolve. This one is just the purchase of the new one. It doesn't say what happens to the 2013. Okay.
How would the council like to act on this resolve here? Doesn't have to do with what we're talking about.
Going to the deputy chief is to avoid using
Sue, could you mute your mic?
the frontline vehicles, the rescue truck, the pickup, the other things, used for errands, used for going to pick
You
up.
can mute her, Peter, if you want. We'll just have to let her know that she's muted.
I did it.
Okay.
How would the council like to proceed on this resolve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the MMA Legislative Police Committee ballot. Any questions? Did everybody get a chance to look at the ballot? Jake?
Mark Easton,
Approve.
Jim Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Peter Stewart,
Approve?
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Rankin.
Approve.
The next item is to approve Resolve 2021-11 to approve the MMA voting ballot. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve. Excuse me, Peter.
Second.
Anything further from the council on this? Again, I think everybody had a chance to see the ballot and see the nominees, so. Looks like they were all filled in anyway, so you basically were voting for not a whole lot of other candidates. So go ahead, Jake, please.
Mark Eastman,
Approve.
Jim Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Approve?
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Downs,
Approve.
Rankin.
Approve.
The next item is to approve Resolve 2021-12 to approve additional funding for the SHIP grant for diesel fuel at the marina in the amount of $50,315.84. How would the council like to proceed? I know Mike's here, I think.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Sue.
Wait. Rich has got information on this that means you don't have to add a whole $50,000 to this. So,
All right. Well,
Yes.
I was going to let Rich talk. You didn't give me
Oh,
it.
okay.
So when bids came back, they came in more than double what the original estimate was given to the town. I reached out to MDOT the very next day and requested additional funds. I believe it was somewhere about 3 o'clock this afternoon. They're actually going to do a 50-50 match with us for the entire program, for the entire grant. So, which I believe it's $58,000 for the town and $58,000 for MDOT. Great win for the town on that.
So the additional funding from the town would be 25,000 approximately, and the additional funding from DOT would be an additional 25. So at the time we did the resolve, we did not have that information. That's all.
So do we have an amendment on there? Is it basically taking 25,000 off of that? So it'd be $25,315.84. Is that where the number should be?
I think it says, the resolve says up to 50,000 whatever, but we would only extend the required $28,000 or $58,000 for the entire project, which is an additional $28,000 from that. But the way I worded it was designed to be that if we got some grants, you didn't spend the whole thing. It's just that we didn't know at the time if we were going to or not. Does that make any sense?
It is. I'm just trying to make sure that we're all.
It does say on there that in the amount of, and then it's direct with the amount. But that's okay.
The original, the resolve itself does say up to 50,000. The shorthand piece that we're looking at says that, but the resolve itself in the body of the resolve says up to. So.
But you can amend that resolve if you want to. And what is the additional amount is 28,000. So the diesel project up to $28,000. If you want to amend that amount from 52,1584 to $28,000, that will meet our match.
Who gave me the original motion?
I did.
Danny?
Yep. So in order to do that, do I have to say, make a motion to amend?
Well, to approve it by amending the amount, the project amount, additional amount up to $28,000.
Okay. Can I say so moved on that? You're cutting in and out for me a little bit, so I only heard a part of
I'm
it.
sorry.
So you want to make an amended amount on your motion up to $28,000.
I'll make an amended amount on my motion up to $28,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the new amendment to the motion. Anything further from the council? Thanks, Rich, for the updated information. Always good news when we can save money.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Jake?
Houston,
Approve.
Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Stewart,
Approve?
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ed Wright.
Approve.
The next item is to approve Resolve 2021-13 to approve the transfer of the police vehicle rotating out of service to the fire department for the use of the deputy chief. How would the council like to proceed?
I've got a couple concerns, Peter, if I could say something real quick.
Yep.
Not to take any, I certainly don't want to, upset or disrespect the public safety building. you're all doing an amazing job. But my biggest concern right now is adding another vehicle into the fleet, which comes with more maintenance, more fuel, rotating that vehicle in every year, every 2 years, however often it's going to work. I don't think this is the best year to do this with everything that's going on, and I don't want anybody to take that personally. It's not an attack on any of you. It's just, I'd really like to see, maybe not this year, maybe we can get a little bit more tax money revenue coming in the future, and then we could look at expanding on what we have. That's it.
Deputy Chief Denning?
Yeah, I'll just be brief, and probably there are questions, why do you need Deputy Chief's vehicle? So basically, this has been in the works for 2 or 3 years. We've discussed it numerous times. The vehicle is really needed to properly respond to incidents that require command, computer, and pre-plans. I can't carry that in my private vehicle. It will allow us to have computer pre-plans of every building, which we are starting to get into that now. There are 2 new inspectors. And that way we have building layouts, floor plans, hazards of every building that we inspect. That ensures safe operations for the firefighters. I'm required to respond to calls off duty when needed in my personal vehicle. I have to respond to the station from my house, gather the necessary equipment, and adds minutes to my response time. I'm also required to attend out-of-town meetings, which in the past, the utility pickup truck was used. I think this practice should not be done. The pickup truck's really a fire truck used for gasoline fires for 6 months. Carries approximately 200 gallons of water and has a fire pump on it. Hauls our rescue boat and also hauls the enclosed trailers to scenes. In the winter, it plows driveways for the ambulance to access emergency scenes. I also think it creates a huge liability in regards to when the pickup truck is out of town and a member uses their own personal vehicle to respond to an emergency, hauling a boat or the trailers. It really should be available, the pickup truck 24/7 for emergency calls and not out of town for meetings. We also have talked about using this vehicle for our fire inspectors while I'm working. I'm not using the vehicle. They can go out and do inspections and site visits along with running errands, which we do to local hospitals for medication supply orders. And this would allow all our emergency vehicles to be in service here at the station all the time. So thank you for your consideration.
Danny?
Mike, how long does it usually take you to get from your house to the station?
Probably, yes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Okay. I guess I feel kind of the same way Ed does. I feel as though adding another vehicle for the maintenance, the fleet, all the uptake on that or upkeep on that, and then the reason that we're buying another vehicle for the police department is because of the maintenance costs on the older vehicles, and then we're going to take another one of those vehicles and put it back into the fleet. So I kind of sit with Ed on this. Something doesn't feel right, and I've had a lot of feedback about it. So, and again, not that you're doing anything wrong. I guess I feel like, do we need a vehicle in the fleet?
Sue?
You all received a memo from Public Safety Director Gagan in regard to this as well. The other reason that is to avoid the use of rescue trucks and pickup trucks and ambulances to go to meetings, to run errands, to do things that are non-emergency in nature, which is what we do now, because there's not a vehicle on that side that is used, that can be used for that, other than a rescue-oriented vehicle, because that's all that side of the building has for vehicles, are those that are response vehicles. The very small amount of money that was being offered as a trade on this vehicle, which we've owned since it was this 2013, the idea was that it would be more economical and a better use of resources to have that vehicle going to non-emergency kind of activity than one of our frontline, much more expensive rescue vehicles. And it isn't or wasn't put forward as a way to sort of add on a perk. It was more in line of saving wear and tear on the more expensive rescue vehicles that are currently used for those purposes, because there aren't other ones.
Mark?
Yeah, I appreciate what Mike had to say, and based on his reasoning, I think it would make sense to provide a vehicle similar to what Deputy Chief Winchester uses.
Anybody else? Jimmy?
Yeah. What presently is paid for mileage for use of your own private vehicle?
54.5 cents per mile.
I looked right out my lease, so.
The town set IRS mileage rate as what we pay for that, and I believe it's 54.5%, 54.5 cents a mile.
In the event that you have to attend a meeting, Sue, what do you use for a vehicle?
Me? I use mine.
Excuse me?
I use mine.
Thank you.
The town office has no vehicles.
Thank you.
Anything else? As a fleet manager, part of the responsibility is, again, to make sure that we are judicious in our use of the vehicles that we have, and having folks use their own vehicles in the course of their duty puts a lot of liability on folks. There's you don't know what's going to happen even in a 5 or 6 minute trip, responding or going to meetings, taking out another vehicle out of service. So if you're looking at what we're going to get on the trade, I think it was $5,000. I think the value of this vehicle was $8,000. So we were looking at a net of $3,000 for the vehicle difference. I can appreciate the wear and tear, but I also can appreciate the other liability piece of it, with folks using their own vehicles or taking a vehicle out of service that may be an emergency vehicle that's needed. So,
If I might add, Kelly Blue Book value on this vehicle that we looked up prior to the private sale for the make and model, year, mileage of this cruiser was 12.7, and the trading value listed was 10.2. But the dealer that was going to take that cruiser in its trade was only going to give us 5, so we're losing more than double or half the value of that cruiser by trading it. I can speak before I had my own take-home cruiser. The 5 or 6 minutes it takes Mike to respond to you to get his gear 5 or 6 minutes that he's taking away from the safety of our citizens. That's all I'm going to add.
Did I understand also, Mike, did I hear you correct saying that other folks may use this vehicle also if they're going to meetings and things? This isn't strictly a deputy chief vehicle?
Correct. Going to have the inspectors use it if we need to use a vehicle to go to the hospitals to pick up a medication supply order. We're going to be able to use that. So.
Thanks.
How long do we, if we were to put this vehicle in place, how long would it be until we needed to replace it again? Like, would it come into a rotation now that the cruiser would then turn down into the?
No, I'm going to run it out. It should last longer than me. Let's put it that way.
I think like the chief's vehicle and the other deputy chief, there was not a thought to turn those around yearly like we do the regular line vehicles. Anything else from the council? We have we don't have a motion yet on the table.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anything further from the council? Jacob?
Pearson,
Approve?
Morrison,
No.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Peter Stewart,
Approve?
Dan Ormsted,
No.
Pat Downs,
Approve.
Ted Rankin.
No.
Motion carried.
The next item is item 9, resignations, appointments. Again, reminder that nomination papers for the council and the RSU are available at the town office and have until September 3rd to turn those in. Item 10 is approval of quit claims, deeds, and discharges. We have one Jamie Ireland 2018 sewer lien discharge, map 33, lot 57. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Jacob?
Pearson,
Approve?
Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Stewart,
Approve?
Dan Ormsted,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ted Rankin.
Approve.
Does that one need to be signed, Jacob?
It does. If at least 4 of you could come in beginning of the week, I'll have it at the front counter like we have before.
Okay,
I can do that.
thank you. Town manager report?
Our paving project has started. We'll have a resolve on the next agenda to award the loan for the phase 1 of the project. Bids are due back on August 19th. We had discussed the idea of a line of credit that would cover 3 years, but the wording of the referendum requires a 7-year repayment, and if we borrow each phase separately, the repayment 7 years for each will be staggered and result in less of a hit to the budget over saying that when you borrow, it all has to come back within 7 years. So if we do the 1.2 this year, that 7-year repayment will start next year. If we borrow next year for the next phase, that's a year out. We get several years where the payment on the total expended $3 million is less than otherwise. But anyway, the bids will be back on that for your next council meeting. Whole Oceans has closed its Portland office, and now its headquarters are here in Bucksport, right next door. Rich Rotella and I were invited to their office this past Friday and participated in a photo shoot that was used in a press release in which they announced their opening of the new office. They're finalizing construction plans and hope to be breaking ground this fall. I've been invited to be a member of the Home Board of Directors. The organization does important work in this region, and I think it would be valuable for me to be on their board. But before I said yes, I wanted to check with the town councilor if there are any objections to my accepting that offer. Work on this board would be outside of my normal work schedule. If anyone have any concerns about me serving on the board of Home?
None.
None.
Okay. So we're in the middle of the audit, which is a whole new world this year in that it's being done remotely, and they're sending numerous emails requesting documents be scanned and emailed to them as part of their audit testing. It's going well, but it's a good deal more work than it normally is when the auditors can come into the office and look at the information immediately. But for this phase, it's remote. The response rate for Bucksport for the census as of this morning was 54.6%, which is about 10% less than it was in 2010. People can still do it online or by phone, and census workers are in the area knocking on doors. Everyone counts in this, and it's really important that as many people as possible make an effort to participate. So I would ask that you encourage your friends and family who live in Bucksport to participate. This decides funding levels and all sorts of other things over time, and there's been discussion of reducing the time that the census would be conducted. So it's even more important that if people haven't participated, that they take a few minutes and do it. The first half of our property taxes are due August 31st to avoid interest. Thus far, we've collected 12.6% of the commitment since tax bills went out the second week in July. So we're ahead of things since the first half isn't even due till the end of the month. We have also collected 39.9% of the tax liens that were placed at on June 30th for the 1920 taxes, which is an excellent collection rate. And I want to thank all the residents who are doing such a great job of paying their taxes, meeting that commitment. And we have had some favorable comments about the tax bills going down, much of that due to the homestead exemption, but still a positive thing to hear. I wanted to let people know that the Bucksport Regional Health Center is now doing COVID-19 testing for both patients and non-patients, and it includes both symptomatic and non-symptomatic people. Testing times are Wednesdays from 9:30 to 10:30 and Thursdays from 2 to 3. Appointments are required and can be made by calling 469-7371 and pressing option 6. This is a good thing for people traveling or people who are concerned that we now have a local option for this testing to be done if people feel the need. I participated in a Zoom interview with a candidate for the Vista volunteer position for the Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities Coalition. She's bright and energetic, and I think would be an excellent fit for the organization and the community. The Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities Coalition has made an offer, and it is in the I-dotting, T-crossing stage of the process through Goodwill, who handles Vista Volunteers. And finally, a representative from the Hancock County Lake Association contacted me with an offer to do some courtesy boat inspections at the Silver Lake boat launch. I asked her to contact our local Silver Lake Association to see what their thoughts were, and she did so. I attached to my report that I sent to you today, and which is also posted online, emails that she sent in regard to it. The group has received some grant funding to do a pilot project with some boat inspections this year. Participation in this would be entirely voluntary on the part of any boat owner who was approached by if they wanted an inspection. And it would only be a few days of inspections in this season, they would be wearing bright yellow shirts and would practice safe COVID practices. Is there any objection to allowing these boat inspections to occur on a few occasions at the, I would, if you agreed, I would ask the organization to give us notifications so we can get something posted, just so people would understand what was happening. But many lakes have these courtesy boat inspections to try and keep milfoil and other things going from lake to lake.
Is there any enforcement action that's taken during these?
No. This is not a report, and this is a voluntary inspection, and it's mostly educating. It's an education process primarily to educate boat owners on what to look for and those kind of things with their boats.
Okay. I'd be okay with it.
We don't bring a warden. It's not bring a warden. No, there's.
Yeah, no objections.
Fine. Yep.
That's it for me.
All right, thank you. Any questions on manager's report, any of the department head reports that were attached? I don't know the set public hearings or whole public hearings approving licenses. I don't believe we have any licenses, but we will have a public hearing at our next meeting on the 27th.
Okay.
Item 13 is discussion items not on the agenda for the council or the public. Did you get anything from the public at all, Sue, for any discussion items?
Hold on. No.
Anybody in the council have anything to talk about? Oh, hands are going everywhere. I'll go with Kathy first.
You're.
Okay, I have a few here. You answered pretty much my question on Whole Oceans. I've had people ask about when they're going to begin construction, and I'm gathering this fall they're in hopes to start construction. Is that what I heard?
In site work, yes.
Okay, that was one of the questions. Another one, the Spirit of America Award, are we going to be doing that when we get back in session? Is that...
It's been, you made a decision on to whom it was,
right,
but we've had no gathering.
So the presentation will be when we get back together. Okay. Yeah. Another thing is, I've had several people ask with concerns and safety of the walls through town, some of them really falling in. I know we have a grant and it's not for until 2021. Is there any way possible that we could use some of that match fund to fix up some of the walls? Is that even possible?
Can I take that one for you, Sue?
Yes.
This is from the signed agreement with MDOT. The project has been approved for calendar year 2021. If the municipality commences construction of the project as outlined above prior to January 1st, 2021, the municipality assumes the risk and responsibility for costs incurred in the event that funding levels fall below main DOT projections. If this occurs, the municipality will not receive reimbursement from main DOT.
So in other words, we wouldn't be able to use the match fund because there's a possibility we might not get a grant?
It's a possibility the funding could be lowered. So most recently, the governor has asked each of the state departments to find 10% budget cuts. And typically, she doesn't, from what I understand, doesn't want it coming from payroll. So it could potentially come from grant funding. Okay. So, and I understand the concerns. I don't like looking at those walls either. They're not in very good shape. They've held up even longer than I thought they would. I will say that on Franklin Street, if you folks are aware, the water project that's happened, some of the walls that were in front of the former Methodist church and next door, main water, and I believe it's Wardwell Construction that's working to, because the walls are only 1 to 2 bricks stacked high, we're able to fix the lawn and the slope so that we wouldn't have any runoff, and those deteriorated walls are gone. There is one wall there that cannot be moved because of a telephone pole, but I think we have enough good blocks of that public works that we can replace what's deteriorating over there. But in regards to Main Street, we're about 4 months away until the new year. I just think it'd be very risky, especially since the governor just made that announcement where she wants those budgets to be cut by 10%.
Okay, thank you. And the last question I have is there anything happening with the fence at the baseball field? Are we going to be fixing that this year? So in case they do have baseball in the spring, it will be ready. I've had questions on that also.
That's going to be on your next agenda for the long-term solution for that requires engineering and drainage to address a significant water problem that's caused that. That said, if the baseball field were to be used next year, there needs to be an interim fix of some time while the town works on the permanent solution, which would include some engineering and drainage study there, and then what type of wall would be the long-term fix. But I've been approached by some that with some possibilities for a short-term, I say short-term, so it could be used next year if necessary, that would be at minimal cost in order to do that, but it wouldn't be a long-term fix because the water is going to continue to be a problem if addressed.
So would they be putting in a catch basin to catch the water?
I have no idea what an engineer would have to evaluate how to address that. I don't have any clue.
Me neither. But I've just had questions, so I just said I'd bring them forth. And
this will be on your next agenda to talk about what to do on an interim basis so the field can be usable next year if that's what's going to happen.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Jamie?
Sue, I was wondering if we could go over our town rules again that we have and CDC rules based around our playgrounds and our fields and all that stuff, the pool, and kind of go over that and bring in the people that are the ones that deal with those on a regular basis so we can figure out how that's going.
Sure. We've had some time since we started down this road, and I can, if you want, put it on the next agenda for discussion and make sure that the recreation and public safety and all those, that if the rules that we have in place are still the appropriate ones to have in place. Is that?
That's it.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything? All right. Again, upcoming public hearings, designation of topics, committee assignments, and scheduling of committee meetings. It still looks like we're going to be meeting this way probably for our next meeting. Hopefully, when September rolls around, we can look at things. Just so you know, we do have a couple spots in town. We could use the new MMA facility. I just don't know what the broadcasting capabilities would be there. And again, I think able to broadcast and through town streams and through our public access is an absolute necessity. So we want to make sure we can do that. When the schools open up, we can look at that again. And you never know when the rules will change. Hopefully we can get back to the council chambers and get together. So as always, I want to thank everybody for their patience. This is not the way we expected to meet, but here we are, and I think we're soldiering through and doing a good job. So I appreciate it. If we got nothing else, last item is adjournment. Take a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, you also.